back, ladies and gentlemen, to EU League. It's Team Vitality versus G2 Esports. And how often have we been so excited to see a matchup between these two esports giants against one another? It's been going on for many years and many years to come, hopefully. Welcome back to the Analyst Desk. I'm Milos the Medic. With me are Fresh and Jess. And how about we chat about these two teams? First up, our French squad, Vitality, Ms. Bolden.
Yeah, it's a squad that I'm sure I can't extend it to everyone, but I very much personally was upset did not make the Mexico Major because I thought they were one of the, not the strongest strategic team, but they were the most diverse strategic team in the entire EU League. I'm hoping that extends here into Stage 3 because they have some killer support staff behind them. We spoke about this in Playday 1, but I do want to harp on about it because I think that will be their area of strength, will be their strategy. Unfortunately, we saw them, fall out because of that rigidity, but maybe they can do a BDS, where BDS was the type of team that came out in strong with all of these strategies and then learned to make minor adaptations as they needed to and still be a strong team. So I'm going to give Vitality, like a little bit more time, but there's only so much time you can give a team before they've got to start performing.
We're giving them a little bit too much
Fresh
time.
is like going, all right, it's enough now.
I was willing to give them time on last week, and then one play day's gone, and yeah.
This man has got a 7-day expiry date. He's like, it's done. Wow.
There's only so long we can keep making the excuse of time.
Okay.
In Playday 1, they tried to play this kind of utopian siege rather than play what's in front of them and play to the strength of the bans. They obviously, on Bank, they didn't ban Habana, and they really struggled with that. So what I'm hoping to see from Vitality today is that they play what's in front of them and what they see.
It's G2, though.
Aha. And G2 is a team you used to be on back in the day. Was it a couple of years now? And what have they done? What do they prepare themselves for today?
It looks very different from when I was there. I think the only remaining members are Citizen and Virtue. And they've obviously picked up Hungary, they've picked up Yonka. They're playing this kind of off-brand siege. I know Sloth mentioned it in the interview. That it's all a little bit different when you're against G2. And they play this like super adaptable style, super fluid style, which is really good for what it is. But when I feel like G2 are kind of in a bit of an identity crisis right now, and they don't do the basics well. And I think when you want to play this off-brand siege, you need to do the basics well.
We argued about this a little bit in the last play day for G2. We said, what if their foundation is that they want to be so unpredictable that you can't counter-strat them? And then obviously Fresh is like, yeah, but fundamentals, right? So it's coach v coach. Me trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. You coming in with your very idealistic, or rather maybe I'm idealistic, well, the other way around.
I think from a point of view that fundamentally against Na'Vi, they were just giving 1v1s consistently. Those kind of fundamentals in the FPS where you don't have a trade game. You can't really play an FPS if you don't have a trade game. So I think G2 really need to work on their fundamentals, basic team play, and then they can start doing this kind of exotic off-brand siege around that.
Can't do the Citizen show no more. At Mexico, it didn't work. At Invitational, it didn't work. Throw it out the window, toss it in the trash where it has to be, and actually give us the results we need, G2. Come on, man. What is this? I know G2.
Because he cares.
And I'm the host, so I can say it. Whereas the analyst, they have to be nice to everybody. I don't have to be nice to anyone.
Shout out to your Virtue, who came up to me in Mexico and complained that every time he hears me on the analyst desk, he misses Australia. Well, hear my accent loud and clear, fellow Australian. That's it.
There you
Snags
go.
on the Barbie. That's what I got for you. Shrimp on the Barbie is what everyone thinks we says, but we say snags on the Barbie. Yeah.
Look, I'm surrounded by English speaker Australian, 3 English people. I have no clue what you guys are saying most of the time. So just nod along and say thank you.
Smile and wave.
Yeah, basically. So how about we have a chat about our maps, or our map in this one that will be played. Of course, all 7 of them are up. And G2 are going to move Oregon to take us to Coastline, where they are on the attacking side. And RC Dez just reeling back in his chair. I don't know how this one's going to go. It seems to veer towards chaos in this.
I think that is exactly where we're heading.
Pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended. Both of these teams struggle with attack. So they go to the kind of more attacker-sided map. but also the one that is utter chaos. You play what you see on Coastline generally. It's generally not strategic. It's not about getting the plants down. It is just straight up gunfights. So it's going to be a very hard map to call.
Oh, God. Speaking of hard map to call, I mean, this has been banned a lot by Vitality. I have 16 occurrences since June the 1st. They have not played it since that region of time, which when we speak about the new team of Vitality is pretty much all we can go back on. So I don't have any stats on Vitality on Coastline. What I can say, though, is that me talking about hyper-strategic Vitality and then putting Coastline next to it, those, it's the equals with the, slice through it. I don't know what that's called. You're a stat.
Equal to.
Not
Unequal.
equal to. Not equal to.
Yeah.
He's an accountant. I can rely on him. So I've got him on the desk. He's a smart man.
Right, okay.
So
For the accounting, yes.
Yes, yes. And when I need my taxes done, I go to Fresh. That's why he's on the desk.
That's how I got the job.
That's a secret. Anyway, nevertheless, I do think that whilst we saw a good brand of strategy on Coastline by Heroic, what I did on the teleshow in the pre-show, I don't think necessarily it comes to, an outcome in the end that will be favourable when you're going up against a chaotic G2.
So G2 Vitality Fresh, who takes it?
Based on the map,
Now that you have the map.
I'm still going to stay Vitality.
I think I picked G2 on my predictions. I'm going to have to say with G2.
All right, there you go. Jess Fresh, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go to Ibiza for this. It's still summertime. It's still fairly sunny and full of color. So let's see how it goes. All the chaos about to unfold. G2 Vitality. We've got Ace and Des to take us through it. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Milosh. Now, a certain caster by the name of Demo once said a good long time ago that Border is where good teams go to die. Coastline, therefore, must be where not-so-good teams go to die, Ace, because these two had a pretty rough week one. It didn't start very well, and hopefully this is the turnaround. But the battle is, it can only turn around for one of them. It's going to be chaos, I say it every single time we come to Coastline, but one team needs to run out of this duel the winner.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, Des. One of them is coming here to die. There's only going to be one winner that walks away from this, and given last Playday's performance from both teams, we're going to have to see, hopefully at least, an improvement from one of them, if not both, because they really didn't come out and have their strongest performances. I think it's fair to say.
They were not so good teams. What can I say?
It's fair to say. In Playday 1, both of them struggled. 7-2 losses. At the hands of BDS and Na'Vi, we've got to put that in there. You would expect that they are going to be two of the probably top 3 teams once we get to the end of EUL Stage 3. Both going very well so far.
Yeah, put a lot of faith behind, or not a lot of faith behind Kavana there, mate.
Well, yeah, that's
They're playing well.
Kavana going very well as well. But, G2 and Vitality coming out against some strong opposition. But, as you say, we would still expect at least a better fight from the two of them. And I think that's what we're going to get today. We've got the operator bands coming in for Coastline. It's going to be Thatcher, Zofia, Mira, and then the final defender will be taken out by Vitality. Valkyrie wouldn't surprise me at all. Popular ban. There we go. It's as if we've watched Coastline before, Des.
You think I'd ever forget watching/casting a game of Coastline, mate? It's rattling around my brain every single time I think about it. The worst thing is, last week we had a rough game. I mean, it's Coastline, so it's always rough. But we had, of course, Heroic coming up against Secret. That game was full of a lot of creativity at points, and it was, to some level, enjoyable, except for when rushes came crashing down off the back of a misdrone player, sat in a corner somewhere with a shotgun collecting 3 kills as the team tried to execute this brilliant rush idea they had. It just wasn't the cleanest of maps, but I'm hoping between G2 and Vitality, all these jokes about Coastline, the teams aside, that we do get a slightly more, I don't want to say mature game, but a more stable one for what these two teams are like. As they said on the desk, Vitality are a more strategical team. G2, we know, have got it in them. They're not really let's just run in and frag everyone. They're not that kind of team. So there should be a little bit more structure to this. And I'm sure Jess is incredibly excited right now that the first site we're stepping into is Penthouse and Theatre. Something that we've only ever really seen Heroic as a team use or play, particularly in the past, opening up all the walls. With the small changes and tweaks to the map now, Thunderbird being in the meta, this is where you might start seeing some things being used more often than not.
Just looking, and so far we've got a reasonably exciting setup coming out for Penthouse and Theatre here. We've got lines of sight being opened up into 90 Corridor and to VIP, so I'd expect an extension into VIP. They won't want to let that go too easily. We've got the right-hand wall that you would normally see a mirror window on has been knocked out, and then we've got, thank you very much, we've got the deployable shield in front of it. So quite an aggressive setup, really. There's a lot of opportunity for rotation, a lot of lines of sight. They're sort of playing as if you had a mirror window, but just without one. And we'll see how willing they are to take those gunfights as and when they come along. As expected, we've got 2 Vitality players, one inside of Hall of Fame, one inside of VIP. They're not going to want to give up that area. That could be a bit of a linchpin to this defence, really, is keeping hold of VIP.
I mean, a great way of keeping hold of it for them on the defensive side, sure, will be just holding a couple of players inside of there. But on the other side, I'm quite excited about the gridlock. The smokes, of course, going to be pivotal to some of their executions, but also potentially to cutting out flanks across the map. So G2 playing this in quite a strategical way, at least from looking at these picks. Isolate the roamers potentially with the intel coming out of the likes of the Lion and the Iana, and then get yourself in a position where this gridlock can really help settle things down, close off any areas of the map that you have cleared, or at least give you heads up when someone is trying to retake control of them and push the way forwards from there. The big question then turns on to Vitality's side is how disruptive do they want to be? And while P4, as disruptive as they come, we saw last week his first kill against BDS was up on square door at Lems as a basically, not a spawn peak, but a very early kill. And here we are, him being shut down early on by Kayak. That's exactly the kind of control that G2 will be looking for.
It was nice play from Kayak. It was P4 getting caught out because he took the drone out but didn't think, hang on, there might be somebody right behind this being droned in. And that's exactly what was going on. And Kayak was able to get that kill. Now, Cactus has also lost his life there, so round 1 not going fantastically well for Vitality. Rise on the run out there. Doesn't manage to catch his man.
That's not
ideal. Shinka does get Virtue Citizen, shuts him down as he tries to get established back inside. So, pretty good from G2. Very alert and alive here. Shinka's just in absolute no man's land. He's outside. He's got 2 kills so far, but there's basically somebody in. If you're wondering why he's not running back inside, there's somebody in the main reception, so he can't get back inside. So he's now just smoking from outside. We have a complete reversal of the fortunes. Kayak holds him where he is because they can get the diffuser down. That's not a problem. And Shinka, it's fair to say, got himself caught out a little bit there.
A bit of a weird reverse when all 3 members of the enemy team are inside the building and you're the one on the outside trying to fight your way back into your castle. You kind of handed the keys there and say, here you go. Here's the keys to the castle. Goodbye, I'll stay outside, I guess. A bit of a scrappy one. I'll give it to Virtue, by the way. Really good dodging of the run out coming out of the Oryx on the smart timing, but didn't then expect the jump out to come off the white window, which was, of course, Shinka securing the kill, and then we saw how the rest of the round sort of descended from there. Good start from G2. We mentioned about them putting that more slow, controlling focus with the Lion, the Iana, the gridlock, really coming to light there and showing that G2 can take things quite slow and composed, even on a map as chaotic as Coastline.
Heading to Hooker and Billiards for the second site then. Vitality choosing not to go with Penthouse Theatre again, and not too much of a surprise. They didn't
Reasonable.
any success whatsoever, I think it's fair to say, in round 1. They were shut down at every opportunity, every angle, every corner was a G2 gun waiting to find those kills, and so they will try and mix it up. We're going to have attention paid towards VIP once again, just barricading or reinforcing now that double wall that used to be the window out onto the DJ booth. That's been altered up just to make it a little bit more difficult for the attackers to get inside of the map. It maybe just need to burn a bit of utility. Of course, you've got the option of the Hall of Fame door, but the reason that's not always too straightforward is you've got an angle on there from Penthouse, you've got somebody who can play in the corner of VIP, you can easily find yourself in a pinch. So G2 just need to be careful if they want to get in and get established inside of VIP, but quite often the focus of the attack here will come into Aquarium, which is the room at the bottom left of your screen. Thank you. We'll try and get established inside of there and get a plant down behind the bomb, but this time that opening kill goes to Vitality. It's going to be Bibu, and it's a big one. It's going to be Citizen going down. Yeah,
big one because you remove the 2 nades as well, which although you'd say, well, there are ADSs on the side, sure, but there's also 9 flashes to potentially burn through those, not the 12 that you see at the top right of your screen. Small bug that we got at the minute that will be addressed in the near future, but that would have been their option to burn through those ADSs so you could really see those smokes and frags connect. The drone comes through, I imagine now fully aware that Shinka is inside of Office, so a little bit of awareness coming through for G2, but now it's about pushing forwards and getting the control of the areas of the map that you feel you need, and with 1 man already missing, a big one in the Iana with that intel game also coming to support, it might slow G2 down enough here that Vitality can take the win.
Virtue looking to get established inside of Office, but it's all going to come down to this fight. Now, as the flash button comes out, he takes advantage of...
I didn't even think. 9 flashes. How many gunfights do you want to be able to win in a round?
9 is the answer, and Virtue wins the first of them, getting that kill and just opening up office. Kayak manages to get one onto P4, and all of a sudden we're in a situation where G2 are in the lead here in round 2, certainly in terms of man count at least, and it's going well for them so far. They're looking a bit of a different side to what we saw against Na'Vi. Obviously, it was a little bit unsure for us how exactly they were going to come out and perform, given the poor performance at the Major, and then followed it up with a tough Playday 1. We're looking for a strong performance from G2. Bibu somehow survives. Rise gets a big double there onto Virtue and Kayak, and there's you picked it up. You said that he was done, but no, you didn't account for his buddy coming in.
MP5K, by the way. Dropped down through the hatch and got the 2K to cover out his support angle, that orange retreat angle. That's exactly what you want. Great team play coming out of Vitality. Gets him out of dodge when G2 was so laser focused on trying to pinch the man who they thought that surely there's no way he gets any support, but no, that support comes through in spades. A massive double kill, and now it's a 2 versus 3 for the remaining 2 members of G2. Now, that solo play just from him by himself seems to have basically taken all the wind out of their sails. Rise onto a triple kill as Bibu did get down. Will get rezzed up, I imagine, in just a second. There we go. Hungry in a 1 versus 3. Should not be able to clutch this out with only 25 seconds to go, especially after missing a free shot like that.
Using the smoke canisters just to try and block the line of sight from main door, at least keep himself safe. Out comes the Toxic Babe. There's the Nitro from Rise underneath. What a round from Rise there. Okay. He was just absolutely covering every single one of his teammates. Every time one of them was downed or in danger, who was it that was there? It was Rise, rising up to keep Vitality in the fight.
Why can't you do that in ranked?
I do.
Do you?
Just not in the game, sure.
Oh, I see.
All the ones you know I do. I do that every round.
You just not for me. Nah. For everyone.
Well, I don't need to for you. You're fragging out, Des.
Sometimes. We don't talk about it too much. At 1-1 then. Third site we'll head into, we'll see in just a second when the leaderboard disappears in front of our faces. It's going to be Kitchen and Service with the Echo being brought along. Now, we've had a lot of chats about Echo lately, especially on maps like Cafe. We see it in Kitchen all the time because there are so many cheeky little holes that you can squirrel those Yokai drones away in, bring them out late in the round and have a really big impact. Now, I remember the first one we got told that they would no longer be invisible. They'd be fully visible to everyone at all times. It was like, well, you'll see Echo drop off the face of the planet. Still very, very useful. Decent gun, has the impacts of rotations, has a shield if you choose to bring it along. And all you got to do is get a bit more creative with those Yokais. Hold them away, hide them away at ground level somewhere under a bit of shelving, for example, and then bring them out at the right time and they can still have just as much impact. So we'll keep a close eye on Cactus. Normally the player you'd see on something like a Maestro and see what he can do on this site.
Well, we also see the Yokais used a little bit differently now as well. You know,
aggressively sometimes.
Aggressively, exactly that. They're used in the same way that the attackers would use their drones sometimes. You've got a roamer out there, you've got a Yokai drone working with him, and he's being droned into rooms and having that information fed into him. It's almost sort of like having a Mozzie on side, but with a guaranteed 2 drone captures. You're coming in there with them already on the board, and then they've got this bonus ability on top of being able to prevent the plant going down. Virtue's going to take a big chunk of damage there from a peek on, I'm guessing, the White Stairs window. It's going to be P4 getting aggressive on the Vigil. Need to be careful and get themselves inside of the building here.
I mean, both of them exchanging a couple of shots. By the looks of it, Virtue, the one arguably coming out worse for wear, losing more of the total HP. In case you are, of course, just tuning in and haven't really been paying too much attention, yes, those health bars aren't bugged. It's the new HP system that we, of course, got in the game. The more armor you've got, the more HP you have. That's why some of those bars are a little bit longer, or at least with more bars on them to give the idea that they're actually longer, when really they're just the same size. However, the attack is coming in through the VIP side. This is what you want, right? You want this vertical control. But P4 still being a rat, running around on the top floor, takes a few more shots. He's down to about 40. He's killing drones everywhere he goes, Ace, as well. Look how many G2 have lost. They're down to only 4 drones left, and they haven't even got full control of the top floor yet. P4 goes for the swing, wins the fight against Kayak. This is beautiful because you've also removed their main soft breacher. They needed that buck, yet he's the one playing entry. Citizen gets the shutdown, Hungry one back the other way. So that's 2 for G2 now being collected and giving them some form of control. But the damage has been done, Ace. They've lost the buck.
The last round, they had this same advantage, but Vitality were able to turn it around. And you may notice this time, though, that Rise is no longer on the board. So somebody else on the side of Vitality is going to have to step up. They've got players who are capable, but we'll see if they can start finding some kills. There's only 3 amongst the 3 players that are left over the 2 rounds that we've had so far. Now, Bibu just looking to use that Aruni ability to open up rotations during the round to move around and just get an option through from Blue Bar to Sunrise, maybe relocate, maybe pop up in an unexpected location for G2. G2, who have got top floor control, but just having a little bit of a pause here at the 2-minute mark.
It's more that Vitality have all just left the site, and this is the site I'll always use as an example of how a retake can play, is once the attackers do get the vertical control, defenders often vacate and play those perimeter rooms and look to retake when the attackers try and go for an execute in some form. And here you just saw 2 or 3 of them all scattering out towards Sunrise and Blue. They didn't want to be on the site anymore. They've got those yokais that they can play behind, and as that clock starts to run down, this is where things get dangerous. One problem being that yokai has just been seen by a drone, so now the attackers will be able to ping out exactly where it's going to again, given it is no longer invisible. It's like robot wars down there.
It certainly is. Jonker just trying to hold an angle, just trying to force something from the service door there. You just feel like one more kill here for G2 is going to tip them over the edge, but they really don't have the choice. As you say, they have to push, and there comes the punishment. Cactus finding Citizen, but Jonker able to get in and get the diffuser down successfully. Virtue finding one, Hungry getting in on it. Virtue second, G2 shut it down, and this, I can see, is going to be back and forth.
I thought Virtue was going to whiff those shots then. I was going to be like, no, there's just no way. You've had like a minute and a half in a 4 versus 3 and still left yourself with 10 seconds to execute and you lose the round. That would have been catastrophic for G2 and was something they struggled against Na'Vi on last week. There were a couple of rounds where Na'Vi played off on the roam, kept G2 guessing this was on bank, and G2 had like Blue still to clear, they had Server Stat to clear, they had Maestro Evil Eye still to clear, and they had literally 10 seconds on the clock, and it was like, you guys have got no choice but to burst forward here and play into the massive disadvantage that Na'Vi have now set up for you. Time seems to be stinging them a little bit in the stage. This time at least, they do make it work. It comes out in their favour. But I'll be watching that for the next 3 rounds to see if it does end up catching them out, because you can feel already Vitality being a little bit sporadic, unpredictable is what's costing G2 in some of these gunfights, and of course in the round that they lost.
Heading back up to Penthouse and Theatre for round 4, then Vitality will try to lock this one down. They were unsuccessful in round 1. G2 able to really pick them apart. That was probably the most successful round for G2 as of yet. Now, it's an interesting map on Clubhouse in that we've seen recent changes, as we've discussed, but we expected that it might just help the defenders a little bit, might swing it in their favour. But as we've seen historically, I've got to say, over the last couple of times we've seen it, it's largely still favoured the attackers. The attackers have been getting in there and still getting the job done more often than not. If that trend continues for G2, then Vitality will find themselves on the back foot, at least coming into the second half. But there's still 3 rounds to go.
I love how, looking back at last week, like you, Fresh, Jess, you were like, barely seen Thunderbirds. You're like some kids that have lit a firework and it hasn't gone off, it's a dud, and you're just like, I'm really disappointed. Then this week, it's kind of taken a bit of time, but the firework has now gone off, because we've seen, I think every single team so far has played Thunderbird at least once across a variety of maps.
Well, that's it. We were patient. We didn't go back to it. Obviously, safety first.
Absolutely.
And then we've been rewarded because, as you say,
I was about to say Bonfire Night's on the way, but that's not really a thing around the world except for in the UK.
It is pretty much just the UK. Yeah.
On the 5th of November, we just like to light a bunch of fireworks. It's health and safety notice from Ace, making sure you're all safe.
Well, that's what we like.
If you choose to join in.
We don't want any risk for anybody. I think there's going to be fireworks throughout the rest of this map. If I had to guess, I can't see this going all G2's way. They do look the stronger of the 2 teams at the moment, but the second half will be the big judge of that once we get Vitality onto the attack. For now, Vitality just need to sort of try to, I don't want to make it sound like they're massively on the back foot, because I think they have been competitive, but they need to hold on for the time being. They need to get everything they can out of this half and then get onto the attack and see if that just swings the momentum for them a little bit. So right now, it's a little bit of damage control. Don't let G2 get too far out in front. Keep them sort of, on a nice tight lead.
There is some control they need to be doing if you're on the side of G2, and it is P4 once again looking to be the troublemaker who's just held down inside of VIP. Now he's poking his head out at the door, just daring someone on G2 to get a little bit too comfortable. Step up onto DJ, and he'll be there for the swing. It is the P4 specialty, these swings, these aggressive plays, and teams need to be prepared for it. It's Cactus to find the first kill onto Virtue, sorry. So P4, okay, hasn't yet struck, but give him time.
And Cactus is just going to hold his position inside of sight for the time being. The Toxic Babe canister just coming out there onto the luggage door to try and support him. He does see the shoulder of the man playing in there. And once again, it's Rise getting aggressive. Des, he goes in, gets one. He's looking for a second. There's no stopping him. Pulls out the pistol and continues to try and take that fight. But now that there's a little bit of a breath in the action, he takes the reload. And you just know he's not going to stop here. He's on the Oryx and he's just looking to absolutely brute force his way to this kill. Citizen downstairs manages to find a great headshot up through the hatch onto P4. Jonker ultimately wins out that gunfight, and all of a sudden it's 2 versus 2. 30 seconds left, and there's plenty of time for G2 to do this.
They're potentially throwing this one away from that 5 versus 2 down to where we sit now. Shinka's on a slither of HP. 1 bullet will be enough to put him in the dirt, and Bibu's the only one now that you're looking at to say you can do this for the team. Citizen, Yonka looking to push their way forward. So they know about Bibu on the near shot. Citizen is just better. A triple kill in the round. The plant going down. G2 have turned this one on its head, but in comes Shinka, finds the one. They must know where he is. Will they chase him? He's got no choice. He's got to push onto him right now. He's holding the angle, but Shinka clutches out with the FMG. Vitality get the round.
Honestly, Des, I'm telling you, this is how this game is going to go. It is going back and forward. We joked earlier about how the games we Cash just seemed to attract the overtime, just seemed to attract the 12 rounds, the back and forth. They always seem to be tight affairs. And when Shinka starts putting down a 1v2 in round 4, you know it ain't going to get smaller.
It's just one of those rounds. Like, in what world do you look at it and go, oh, we're in a 5 versus 2?
I even started ticking my plant box. I'm like, yeah, Jonker's got it down. There's it. Oh, no, undo that, undo that.
No. G2 attacked so slow early on when they were pushing their way up Y and through luggage. And that's where Vitality, Rise especially at the door, was like, right, I'm going to go hyper-aggressive here. I'm going to move fast. I'll take gunfights. They won't be able to understand what's going on. And sure enough, they brought it down to that 5 versus 2. But the Citizen factor reigns supreme for G2. We spoke about him a bit last week and said,
How many times have we seen it?
We said, oh, you know, feel sorry for him. You know, he's had to put up massive numbers throughout the year for his team, dragged him through some really tough games. And that round there was almost one of them. A 3K for himself, but just not quite enough to be able to fully convert things out. 2 apiece. And I know you're talking about that O word a little bit early on, maybe, Ace. But at this point, it feels like we may as well just start talking about it from round 1.
Our rounds might as well, our games that we cast might as well just be 15 rounds.
Just set the clock. Let's just play 15.
Let's just accept that that's where it's going. It'll be better for everybody that way. We can apportion our time a little bit better.
I like the P4's gone onto Vigil here as well, just to make him that more kind of independent roamer. Last round was, of course, on the Alibi.
Yeah, he's been on and off. He's played Vigil a couple of times and has had a little bit of success. I mean, the thing about Vigil is, so Vigil's ability is he can take himself off drones. He can remove his visual signature for a period of time. So it makes him difficult to track down. You can only track him down to within a span of maybe 3 or 4 rooms. You've got to go in and face check everything, and it does make life difficult. But on the flip side, the thing that Vigil needs to do is, you've got to remember, now that we're in a pool of reinforcements, Vigil doesn't actually bring anything to the team, Des, in terms of...
He's very selfish.
In terms of utility, he brings nothing for the team, effectively. He doesn't. You don't even need him for his 2 reinforcements anymore. People may not know. We have a pool of 10 for the entire team now that, you know, one person could do all 10 reinforcements. It used to be that you had 2 per operator, so at least Vigil brought his 2 reinforcements, but you don't even need him for that anymore. So his utility, it's got to be the kills, and it's got to be the time. He's got to waste time, and he really does need to be finding his kills.
One thing I will also clock here is, of course, that he counters Lion's Gadget a bit as well, and that he keeps himself shielded from that. So maybe if they're looking here and saying, well, look, they're really committing to the line, they're using it quite a lot early on, not so much for pinches, but more in the early round to find out who's moving about. P4 can keep on playing his usual crazy self, even with that ringing out across the map. So that's one thing to watch out for. He hasn't really been impactful so far. G2 have controlled him well, but this could be a lean into saying, right, let's see how we can make him even more independent and deal with what G2 keep on throwing at him. Worth mentioning, they've now, of course, got the Finker and the Lion on side. If you picked that 2 years ago, you'd have been seen as being a bit BM. The Global's an absolute nightmare at the best of times.
Oh, Rise, you cheeky boy!
Cheeky monkey.
Gets himself out of the office door, launches the Nitro up onto Aquabalk and catches Virtue sleeping on the Lion. He's on the drones. You'd expect to be safe there. I'll be honest, I've cast 100 games on Coastline and you don't see that Nitro too often.
Nope. Normally you get punished for that sort of thing, but alas, no drone down in office does punish G2. However, to counter it, they have some really good trade play coming through luggage. P4 swings and finds one. Yonka brings one back the other way. And that balances us out at 3 versus 3. I feel like it doesn't matter what the numbers are on either side or how much time's on the clock. It is so hard to call how these rounds are going to end, but it has to end in the next 30 seconds. G2 need to get a move on.
They certainly do, and this is the time. They are attacking onto Hooker and Billiards. Let's remember, Citizen is still underneath. Out comes the nade. It's going to be misplaced. Doesn't manage to find the kill from underneath, so he's going to be limited now to potentially moving downstairs. Out goes another nade. Rise takes a lot of damage. I think what's happened there, Des, we'd have to see afterwards, but I think the nade has probably bounced down. Jonker is getting the diffuser down, will be successful. There was a kill in the midst as well, so Vitality well and truly on the back foot here. It is 3 versus 2 in favour of G2. Finker has given the boost, so they've got that extra bit of HP for those late fights as well. Rise, he's looking to get aggressive and move out of there, but he needs to be very careful on low health. We've got Cactus who takes the fight. Rise backs him up, and once again, Des, Rise is going to be picking a teammate up. 20 seconds left to go. They've got 13 seconds to do something. This is all down to Citizen. Gets one, sprays 2. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3 for Citizen, and that is G2 taking round number 5. Found themselves 3-2.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We have not had a single team chain 2 rounds together so far. It has been 1 for 1 for 1 for 1 the whole way through. A much better round, and honestly thought Yonka was dead to rights there. The swing onto him, you thought he'd be doomed from the start, but no, does manage to down one and at least bring things a little bit more balanced. But we were talking about this backstage, about these nades, that they aren't quite killing people from below, but it's putting them to dangerously low HP. It does keep on happening where it comes that close. I'm thinking maybe it's down to the bars potentially getting in the way of some of the explosions. There's all kinds of factors, of course, that can weigh into it. All it ultimately leads to here, though, is G2 being up 3-2. The last defensive round for Vitality. They've tried to get cheeky, and here's a beautiful replay of said cheeky C4.
There we go, look at that, just looping up absolutely beautifully right at the feet of Virtue. Nothing that the Lion could do there, and to be honest, I can't even be critical of it. He's on Aquabalk, he's having a look in his drone, nothing unusual there. There's been done a million times before and will be done a million times again. Rise just with a heads-up play. Sometimes that's what you need, but ultimately, you know, let's not focus on that too much because it didn't win them the round, as they weren't able to get it shut down. You know, and ultimately it came down to Citizen and Jonker just mopping things up at the end and getting it done. And right now G2 are looking pretty good at doing that, but this is going to be their last attacking round. This is their last opportunity to find themselves an advantage coming into the second half. So once we have finished this round, we'll swap sides. Vitality will move on to the attack, and that's going to be interesting to see whether it is Coastline playing out in favour of the attackers or whether G2 have just been slightly more successful.
Quite possibly, time will tell. See what G2 tries to do. I mean, again, we keep on speaking about Vitality and the aggression they're trying to show at points throughout the round. That run out C4, a great example. P4 looking to match himself up against 2 or 3 members of G2, another great example. And G2 are controlling it well. I'll give that to them. Last week, they couldn't seem to deal with Na'Vi at all, but at least here today, do look a little bit better at controlling the aggression coming out of would-be defenders. So I like to see that at least as an improvement. Vitality, to their own rights, are pulling out some really good late-round plays, something that we criticised them for a little bit earlier on today. So we hit that 2-minute mark now. C4 in hand for Rise. He's looking for the window. But Virtue has been patient as a saint on this window all game. He's dodged runouts. He might even dodge a C4 in this round. He is playing it very carefully because, again, they're aware of that early round aggression coming out of players like Rise.
Yeah, P4 is going to have to move his body out of there soon as the VIP wall gets opened up next to him. But look how aggressive he's playing this. Rather than dip out of there, he's just looking to take the fight even closer to that door. He's avoided the drone, I think, has he? No, Citizen is aware of his position now, takes shots, but P4 is going to scurry away for the time being. But that's perfect vigil play there, Des. Getting right up in their faces, letting you know they're there, and then just escaping, just moving away and coming back to prod and poke and just not allow them to settle.
Just getting something to think about, right? Always be aware of your presence, that you could swing out at any time, and you've always got to be respectful of that. It's the same story here over in Penthouse and Theatre. Kark's playing this incredibly patiently. Viega looking to go for the challenge here, but they need to find a way to push him. Virtue doesn't want to get his way swinging in. He's watching for the hallway, but it's Rise going down first. Hungry finding that first kill. I
feel like G2 need this round. I just feel like they've got a little bit of ascendancy inside of this attacking half, and they need to take advantage of that. If they come away 3-0 and heading in without any real benefit from it, I think it will play onto them hard. There's a lot of explosives that are just missing the mark today, Des.
One way of putting it, yeah, it's a bit freaky often it's occurring, but we'll leave it at that for now. Here comes Virtue again on this window. He's been sat here for 2 minutes, by the way, just happily providing support to the team, droning, calling in the EE1Ds. A much more passive role than what we're used to from him, but it's Citizen picking up the nade kill. Beautiful as the man tumbles down through the hatch by the looks of it as well. And now they've got the downstairs control. The spray completely misses. That should have been a freebie as the plant comes down onto Yonka. 2 kills come back for Vitality, 3 versus 3, but the plant is down. Hungry has found a triple kill, and that is how you can win this round for G2. Bibu has got to pull off a miracle if they want to win this round.
Big round for Hungry there as he gets the kills when they are desperately needed, and a 4th as well. Finishing off the last man, shutting down Bibu next to the billiards table, and that's going to be G2 going 4-2 on the half, and I think that was the minimum that they needed there. It felt like G2 had the run of things. It felt like they were on top of those gunfights, of those rounds, and they needed to come away with an advantage from that, and that's exactly what they've done. So well played, G2, but now the question falls over to the feet of Vitality. What can they do on the attack? Can they match or better G2's performance there? We're going to have to see, for my money, a little bit more out of Vitality here. I think it's not just down to the difference of attack or defence on coastline. I feel like G2 have been a step ahead all the time. They seem to just have the sort of run of what Vitality were going to do. And Vitality, they need to just step it up a gear now. They just need to apply a little bit more pace, a little bit more aggression, win a few more gunfights and get themselves back into this. They can't wait for G2 to drop off simply because they've moved on to the defence.
It's kind of one thing I've always thought about Vitality, or at least over the last stage or so I've started to think it is, that I think they're quite predictable as a team. Like, nothing they really do is, out there or crazy. People, to a level, their style is predictable, but what the players themselves will do isn't always predictable. P4, for example, you don't know when he's just going to crouch walk through a rotation and try and gun 3 of you in sight, and my God, has he made it work at certain points in the past. Or, Rise with the C4s, you know that he likes to play that early aggression on defence. It's nothing surprising in the way that we know BDS like to play relatively stationary when they're playing defence on Clubhouse. They don't really like to roam all that often. But that doesn't mean it's easy to beat sometimes, but I think if you can control that and know what to expect at what kind of time in the round, that's when they become a little bit more easy to manage, and that's what I think G2 showed in the first half. The big question now comes in, how well can you predict them on attack? Because as said, P4's the kind of guy that will just crouch walk into sight and kill 3 people if you are not hyper aware of where he is and what he's trying to do.
Looks like he's thinking about those downstairs roamers, but also the opportunity for a few vertical nades as well. One goes in, will be unsuccessful, doesn't catch anybody on the side of G2. Right now, aren't playing anybody but Kayak inside of sight. Jonker does move in to continue a little bit of renovation, just open up a line of sight for him to be able to toss those toxic canisters through later in the round if he needs to deny a plant, but then just dips straight back out of the site. G2 at the minute very keen to take the fights elsewhere.
It's a very quiet start as well. No early pushing aggression coming out of Vitality, and no one on the side of G2 keen to try and create any of their own. You got Hungry and Citizen being the main 2 who are out covering off around the map. A couple of others dancing around the perimeter of sight, but no one else really looking to go mega aggressive. And I'll always think back to the Na'Vi days of Citizen. Whenever they played this map, he would always be off in kitchen service on something like a Vigil, looking to cause trouble on that side of the map. But on Vitality's side, they're having none of it. They aren't entertaining that desire of Citizens, and instead of focusing almost exclusively on Hookah here, they've got 3 or 4 players looking to square around. Rise finding the opening kill onto Kayak's not a bad one because you remove the C4, and now it's what they can do with that. Apparently, a second kill is going to be the answer. Utility is traded, no one brought down, and now Yonka's on blue. How does he whiff that? You can't be missing those, buddy. That is such a whiff.
P4 steps in and manages to punish him for it, finding the headshot onto Jonker, and Bibu has the opportunity to get the diffuser down. It's all up to Hungry. Gets the first of 5 that he's going to need as he finds Rise, finds Cactus with a headshot, 1 versus 3, but the problem is that they know where he's coming from now as he tries to step up these Cool Vibe stairs. He knows the diffuser's down, but look at that. There's just 1 from each side of him, Des. There's absolutely no way. You see the bullets crossing over each other in air as Hungry steps up to the top of Cool Vibes there. It was always going to be a big ask for him, and Vitality send a bit of a message on their first attacking round. It was a very one-dimensional attack, Des, as you picked up on during that round. It was all about Hooker, straight up to Hooker deck, and just try and get in through that door and get the diffuser down. But it didn't matter that they didn't have another angle of attack because they just did it so well. They had the man on double window, they had the man on Hooker single window, they had a nice crossfire. As soon as G2 tried to move anywhere, as soon as they tried to breathe, they were finding themselves in lines of sight. Vitality, nicely played.
They identified it really well, droned out the players they needed to clear before they could look to make a push into sight to clear out those a little bit deeper. Ignored the two roamers, just only really concerned themselves with the area of the map they needed control in. Great start for them. We can see if they can continue that on now and bring us up to 4-4, because this is one of those crucial rounds that you always like speaking about, Ace. Does it tie up at 4-4, in which case you've got a game on your hands, or does the other team pull ahead to 5-3, knowing they're one round away from guaranteeing at least overtime? That's going to be the big question. Looking over to Vitality's side, 2-3 C4s on, to G2's side, 2 or 3 C4s playing on side. I imagine Kayak's got one of those in the back pocket as well. So lots to look forward to there. Not sure what default cams is watching at this point in the round. I was kind of like, maybe it's a bit early for that one. But at this point now, maybe it's getting back on the cams or something, trying to catch out who's spawning where, as you often see some players like to do. This is a new one. I'm in for it. Now, I'm very curious as to the reason to that. Very curious.
We'll see as the round plays out. I mean, as you say, it's there you go. There's your answer.
No.
Got your answer. I don't think that's gone
that deeper.
Quite as deep as Kayak is looking for. He's going to open things up a little bit more and go even further up there. It's still going to stick out a little bit out of that soft wall, but could make it a little bit more difficult to find, particularly the things like a Rotero drone coming in, maybe. You know, you've only got a number of seconds to spot out where that utility is. Maybe they don't see it. Maybe they think that it's elsewhere. But for the time being, at least, Kayak is going to hold himself inside VIP as well, so they are not just solely reliant on that electrical. The Gemini drone gets taken out immediately. Kayak knows that he's likely to get pushed pretty soon in this position, but he's going to hold on to it for the time being, and those gunfights could be crucial for this round.
I'm going to have to ask him about this later on, because I'm like, she wanted to spray it as if it were just there anyway, so I'm not entirely sure of the point. I'm sure we'll find out later on, or maybe our analysts have a good idea of their own they'll share on the desk a little later on. It's going to be this main DJ focus for 3 members of Vitality. Shinka up on the roof as well, just above, with nades in hand. So again, it's going to be a forget about clearing the map, forget about taking side of hookah. Let's just get ourselves straight in here through VIP and make it work out. They should know that Kayak is lurking in here. Can they just about see his left side maybe here? I'm sure they can. Yes, they can, but he wins the shot against P4. Beautiful. 2 separate 1v1s, and Kayak wins them both. We saw this just last week, if you recall, Ace. Forget the player was, but there were 4 kills from inside of VIP, straight into Hall of Fame, and it was not a problem at all.
And that is why you should always avoid giving people 1v1s. If you had a second man involved in that initial gunfight, Kayak loses his life. I'm not saying that you can push both men in from Hall of Fame, though of course you can't. You're asking for him to spray you both down. That's why you need that second angle. You need that second option, because Kayak has just got away with 2 for free there. And I tell you what, he's going to get a third if this carries on, because he's got wire magnets in place to stop the nades getting to him, and he is just going to hold this position for as long as possible. He knows that they've come in now, and look at him. He's up, he's down, he's just going to keep himself there. He's got Virtue backing him up. The Nitro comes out. It's not going to reach its target, but for the time being, I don't know if they're even aware of Virtue in here right now.
He's on like 10 HP and he's still sticking for these, and oh my god, he gets the third onto Shinka. Finally shut down. Does Bibu know about Citizen? No, he does not. A triple kill in the round for Kayak, and 2 more for Pleasure coming out of G2. Gives them a very convincing round win, and you will be asking questions of Vitality why you're sending 3, 4 players through the same single doorway into constant 1v1s.
I mean, you've got to say in that round, it looks a little bit unforgivable there. It's just absolute tunnel vision onto Kayak. And, you know, maybe the whole attacking strategy completely revolved around having VIP. So, yeah, we've just got to keep throwing men at this problem. But it didn't work out. You know, you've got nades, Des. They've not gone underneath. They know exactly where Kayak is. You could nade that position from kitchen window. You don't even need to go inside of the map. If you think he's in there behind couches, you can hit that from kitchen window with a nade at the ceiling. So it just seemed like Vitality just got completely tunnel visioned on him. it happens. You know, you get beaten on one angle by somebody on a gunfight and he's 10 HP. Right, we've only got to get one bullet to land. Oh, we've lost another one. Oh, we've lost another one. And it was just an absolute nightmare for Vitality. But I just feel like on that one, they threw good money after bad.
Chaos of Coastline, mate. Welcome. Where teams go to not look so good. Because we know that they can do so much more than that. We've seen so much more out of Vitality. Like, we all saw them coming up against BDS last week, and there were a lot of people like, oh, I fancy Vitality could maybe do this. Like, not enough to bet, but I fancy they could do it. Because they did it last stage. They showed in week 2 they could beat BDS, and they can tango with the best in this competition. We saw them, you know, air quotes, throw it away on the final Playday of Stage 2, which had they won, they potentially would have had a very good shot at going to the Mexico Major. And it kind of feels the story of Vitality is they're always just short of what would make an excellent team to get them to that level where they can be competing with the world's best. And I think this game really is starting to rack up into the example of all the small mistakes that are just showing why there is still work to be done for this French team.
There you go, P4 managing to open things up onto Hungary, and G2 showing that there is still some flaws in their response to what Vitality are trying to get going here, and occasionally they are just leaving themselves exposed, and Vitality do manage to punish those mistakes, but Virtue now opening up a vertical angle. In comes the nade. Citizen does very well to just avoid that, just dancing around behind the bar there.
Oh, Courtyard.
Courtyard.
There's one guy in Courtyard just waiting.
Need to be very aware of it. In comes nade again. Citizen managing to avoid, but Cactus gets him as he is on the rotate. Is it all going to come down to Kayak in this power position again? Rise finds Yonka. I think they do. The pre-fire comes in, and this time Kayak will not get away with it. Rise able to shut down the man in Courtyard. We are heading for 5-4 on the scoreboard here as Vitality have a huge advantage now. They're inside of sight. They're in control of round 9. They can think about getting that diffuser down, and that is exactly what Cactus does right on cue. There is very little that Virtue can do to impact on this. Shut down by Bibu on the vertical angle, and Vitality, they take what could have been a very important round. Even just one more for G2 will now guarantee overtime. So Vitality, if you want to win it in 12, there's no more mistakes.
Really good round from Vitality, though. Really good isolation of independent players. The one, of course, off in Sunrise, which we saw a great nade come into. You had the Ana catching the one from security for free. They didn't expect him to be there that fast and caught the man trying to rotate through lobby, which kind of pincered the maestro of Kayak inside a Courtyard, and he was forced to take the fight. Rise was very careful. They didn't get excited once they got 1 kill, 2 kill. Didn't give him the chance to find any kills, and as soon as he steps forward during the EE1D scan, it's a simple job of just swing on him and spray onto him, no problem at all. A 5 versus 2 then kind of ensues, and I don't know, G2 just kind of left themselves exposed to the many nades coming out of the side of Vitality. It's enough to bring it to 5-4 like you say, Ace, but after the round before that one, I'm just kind of thinking, can you build confidence in that last round that Vitality have got this in the bag and they can bring it up to at least overtime? If not, all 12 rounds, we'll do it in 12 like you said just a second ago.
Gonna have Hooker and Billiards once again coming in from G2 then. They defended here in round 7 unsuccessfully. Vitality able to get the win. If you remember, that was the round that they just went absolutely route 1 to Hooker. There was no real other option for Vitality in terms of their attacks. They were very one-dimensional with it, but they did it very well. I don't think they'll get away with it again, though. I think G2 will be preparing specifically for that possibility. So Vitality, I'm sure they're going to want to mix things up a little bit here. They're maybe going to apply a bit of pressure to VIP, maybe from Aquarium instead. It's quite unusual these days to see the pure Hooker balcony attack. There does usually tend to be at least some pressure towards Aquarium, if nowhere else.
Here looks more like towards DJ again, as well as the east side. So coming in from Penthouse Theatre, looking to push their way across. It's different to what we've seen from Vitality in their round so far, where it has been very, we only take the ground that we need and we focus on the site. Here they're looking for more map control to push their way down and through, and G2 responding in kind. Double jammer coming through as well is quite an interesting one, just to make sure that wall most definitely stays closed and block a couple of drones that might come swinging through. So if we're not careful, we'll see more of the same, Ace, where for G2 it's hunker down inside of VIP, and for Vitality it's running one after the other like lambs to the slaughter. Hey, look at this, Ace. They're going from below. It's like they're listening to the cast at the same time.
Imagine that. There you go. That's the exact angle that would have, you know, really disrupted the Kaid of Kayak previously, but this time he's not going to be playing in there. So P4 looking to get aggressive, move in now. They've pretty much got VIP access lockdown. G2 not really contesting it this time. They can open up a line of sight then that will give them a nice long angle all the way through into billiards. That will allow them to prevent any defenders rotating in there. They can think about adding a little bit of aquarium pressure, and that should crack the nut of this G2 defence. Now Rise knows there's a man in there. There's going to be shots exchanged, both down to less than half health. P4 manages to finish off Hungry, coming in with the support of his teammate there, and that's what Vitality need to be doing. Jonker taking a lot of damage on that fight, and you can just see the new angles opened up here by the movement of those shelves inside a coastline. Allows P4 to find Kayak, but with 1 minute remaining, G2, they start to fight back.
It's one of those again where the independent players are getting naded out, they're getting isolated, and Vitality are punishing G2 for not playing as a cohesive unit and playing off trades, for example. P4 weaving his way through the bullet lines that came across, one from all the way in luggage, the other more in towards the hallway, but keeping himself alive was crucial. 4 versus 3 for Vitality. If you're going to do it now, boys, now is the time. They've got 40 seconds on the clock, Ace. They've isolated those individual members they could, and now the rest of G2 are playing a little bit more together.
That's it, a little bit more savvy, just back to back now, waiting for those final fights to come in, and they will try to hold their angles and hold them off. Now, G2 are looking good as every second ticks by here, Des. It's going to become more of a roll of the dice.
Citizen.
Out goes Citizen trying to find an answer, but shut down after only one. Shinka managing to get the trade there, 13 seconds left to go, and it is 1 versus 3. Virtue with it all to do, but gets absolutely rushed, pinched, cornered, however you want to call it. Virtue had a little chance there, and that levels things up. Vitality with back-to-back attacking rounds. They bring us back to 5-5, and there's a potential here, Des, for them to go one better than G2. G2, of course, 4-2 on their attacking half. Vitality right now, they're fighting for a 5-1, and they're fighting for a match win.
G2 need this talk right now, and I always love focusing on who's talking when these guys are like taking a time out. I mentioned before that it's often Citizen the one doing the talking. By the looks of it here, he wasn't saying a whole lot there a second, taking a big swig of water. And I imagine he said a lot of that chat now is on Shas in the back room, talking about, look, boys, I imagine he's seeing the same things that we are. You know, these members of G2, they are losing 2-3 members in the early to mid round every single round to these brilliant nades coming out of Vitality, the 2 or 3 man pushes onto individual members, having crossfires held. You know, both teams have looked good in attack, but this defensive side of things, you know, Vitality were predictable, and G2 are playing very, very isolated and aren't moving their feet enough. There are things to learn and things to improve on here. Otherwise, this game is going the way of Vitality.
Certainly could be. There's going to be another couple of rounds before we get any answers, as we are 5-5 now. We are guaranteed once again of seeing all 12 rounds of regulation. I think if this one went to overtime, Des, quick thinking, for stage 3, that would leave us with only 1 out of 5 casts that hadn't gone to overtime. Would be on an 80% strike rate. Teams are not going to be wanting us to cast them at this rate.
I mean,
too much pressure.
It started out as
intense.
don't predict us, and now it's don't cast us, please.
We just know that you go into overtime, an 80% overtime strike rate.
I'll wait until they appear at the studio doors with pitchforks and like torches and ready to get rid of the witches who keep taking us to overtime.
I'm sure the viewers love it because you get these intense, interesting games every
I mean, as much as like watching a team like, I don't know, say BDS or Na'Vi, like 7-0, 7-1, 7-2 dumpster teams is good fun because you get to see just how strong they are. These are the games that really get your heart going in the later rounds. And dare I say, it does feel like overtime is on the way. Let's just hope that timeout for G2 changes things. Keep, again, a very close eye on these members that are out roaming. Are they off being caught still and being caught out by nades coming out of the side of Vitality? Because, my God, are they bringing a fair few to the party. The 6 in this round, the Maverick, the Iana, the Sledge. They're saying, look, why fix what ain't broken?
Exactly that. Now, interestingly, G2 are at this point able to go back to the only site that they've won so far. So Penthouse opens up for them again, and that's where they're going to go. But let's not forget why they won that. They won that because Vitality just fed themselves into the slaughter of Kayak in VIP, one at a time, allowing him to get them kills. Do I think Vitality are going to make that same mistake again? No, I think they'll have come away from that, Ryan, probably berating each other, saying, how can we feed him like that? We can't do that. So I think we're going to see a different approach from Vitality this time around. G2, they need to dig their heels in here. They need to make sure that they get this one over the line, but it's then going to take a win on a site that they haven't yet been successful on to get themselves the win inside of 12.
I mean, Kayak's already fragged out once on the Kai. Why take it away from him here? Keep it on side. They've got the 3 C4s. Rather than just a jam it on the wall, it does now mean they have an electrified wall. A little bit harder to deal with. No craziness with the reverse kind of reinforcement, but almost as if by magic, Vitality have read into that with the Maverick that we mentioned. And again, 6 frag grenades on side. There is the Wamai on side for the side of G2. I just hope to God a number of those discs are committed inside of VIP, or this could get explosive very quickly.
Certainly could. We've got Bibu just burning his way across the wall there, looking to take both reinforcements down possibly. He was just waiting for that noise there that signified that he'd gone far enough to break the reinforcement. Citizen with a big opener though. You spoke about explosives, but it goes the other way. It's moving into Hooker, and Rise will be shut down by the Nitro there. Now, the work continuing on that reinforcement, and I don't know, is it just me, Des? It just feels like a bit of a sort of lack of confidence from the Maverick here in getting opened exactly what he wants.
I mean, he's not far off out of gas. He's got enough here to get this fully open, which is what he wanted. So the line across there, I think, is more for nades to being slipped in. He's got one down at crouch height as well, so he can take some gunfights. And of course, the multiple hole at the same time. A small change there for Vitality. They were looking to have someone push from a different direction. It was Rise by himself coming in from Hookah, but by the looks of it, Citizen had his number with the C4 that brought him out of the game. So not a bad start for G2. They've scattered away from VIP. They aren't trying to force themselves to hold it. Instead, want to contest those long angles once again, and aren't giving Vitality the room to use those 5 frag grenades to pick up kills. So a better start for G2, but there's still 60 seconds to play, and that is a lot of time in C, Jace.
It is, and the important thing that Bibu's work on that VIP wall has given Vitality here is the freedom to move into VIP now. P4 by a fraction of a second misses a peek on the 90 corridor there. Just can't seem to get himself lined up just right on there. Doesn't quite see the man. It's an agonising pixel away. If he steps out, he's likely to be shut down by Kayak behind a deployable shield on the elbow of 90 corridor. But Vitality just feel like they've maybe stalled out a little bit here. Out goes the nade from Bibu, caught by one of those Wamai magnets, but still successful in clearing out the shield, and in comes the follow-up from Bibu to take down Kayak. 4 versus 4, but Citizen and Virtue step out, getting important frags, 1 apiece. Virtue another. 4 versus 1 now for G2. It's all up to Shinka. He needs to be finding something. 5 seconds left to go, and this round is done. Impactless kills rain in as he manages to find Virtue, but that is going to be the end of things. As a round goes to G2, they will have the match point opportunity, but if they're going to lock this down, they need to win a site that they haven't yet done so.
It's much, much better from G2 as well. They were somewhat mindful of the VIP angle that had been opened up from the doorway down through into sight. They backed away and didn't let the frags come raining through. They knew to back away as soon as the Maverick was on that north wall in VIP. Just much better coming out of them. A couple of gunfights that you could have flipped a coin on, and maybe it would have been P4 walking away the winner. But unfortunately, a little bit of mistiming, a little bit of unluckiness for P4 means Vitality walk away empty-handed quite decisively. G2 have got the chance to wrap this up here and now, but they need to keep on playing with that kind of resilience and composure that we just saw in the last round. Blue Bar and Sunrise, a sight we have not seen yet, is going to be where round number 12 takes place. It is the final battleground potentially, unless Vitality can drag us through to overtime.
I mean, the upside for G2 here, as you say, coming to a site that we haven't seen yet, is that Vitality, they might be playing slightly on the back foot here. They're not going to know everything that G2 are bringing to the table, so they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to react very well to what's in front of them. But to be fair, they've already shown a capacity to do that in the fact that they are 4-1 up on the attack so far. If G2 can get this done, and it will be a big coup. It's actually 3-2, sorry, wrong way around. So 3-2 so far to Vitality on the attack. It's now or never, Des, if they want any result out of this G2 game. They really do need to get in. The important areas for them here are going to be getting control over Hooker. It looks like we've got some Aruni holes just being opened up there by Citizen that's going to just provide some support on the vertical angles. There we go. So it's going to prevent the plant inside of Blue Bar, which would be a common one. The attackers like to get into office, open that wall up, get through, shielded by the bar, and get the diffuser down on the ground. Now, that is very aggressive from Rise coming out. And more importantly, Des, look at the fact that we've already had a Toxic Babe canister. In fact, we've had 2 used by Jonker inside the first 30 seconds.
That was a panic of a rush. They thought there was something crazy going on. The EE1D, 2 players pushing their way forward. It's fair to assume that might be a thing. Now, he won this gunfight on this one last time. Does he know the man's still here? I'm not convinced he does, but he backed away. Oh, surely he could have got something, but Cactus has gone down there. Must have been Citizen at the window. Hasn't quite finished him off, and finally, it will be Kayak going down. Instead, Nate in hand, looking to see what he can connect onto as Hungry trades back on P4. Citizen a second. The kills are starting to fly in for G2. Can't quite connect the third, nor is he traded back out. And Vitality, a 4 versus 3, and we're only 60 seconds in.
Citizen low health now, and I think we're just going to see things slow down a little bit here. Vitality, they can't keep throwing bodies at this because they are going to lose via attrition if they continue. So it's just take a step back, get the drones out there, start opening the angles, go back to a little bit more default siege des rather than trying to rush in, rather than trying to find those roamers. We're attacking onto Sunrise. Let's work pool entrance. Let's try and get the wall open up the default plant site and see if we can maybe get this diffuser down. But they're going to need a kill or two, I think, before they can think about doing so.
It's just crazy how it all exploded inside 60 seconds, and G2 almost panicked themselves. We mentioned about Yonka chucking out both of those smoke canisters in fear of a rush. I think it was the right call, because if that was a rush and they hadn't used them, they'd be regretting it when Yonka would have been dead just a few seconds later. Ticked over another 60 seconds now. Peacetime has endured. The ceasefire is over. This is where things now need to start heating back up again for Vitality. It is that last chance that we keep on talking about. It is quite literally now or never. They will walk away defeated if they can't bring G2 to their knees in this round. By the looks of it, still not fully aware or confident in what's going on out towards lobby side. Do they know? Oh, Hungry. No, you should be hungry for this one. Watch the window. Watch the window. Please, please, not a third window. Thank you very much.
He doesn't get away with it a third time. Rise being shut down there, and you just feel like that is going to be a big, big moment for Vitality. But every time you feel that, Des, they seem to manage to just creep their way back into it. Bibu managing to find Hungry before he could detonate that nitro.
Oh!
Tries to go through the soft wall, but Virtue on a very important cover from the Cool Vibe stairs. Shinka takes an awful lot of damage from upstairs in Billiards there, and this is surely the race run, and it will be as Citizen manages to close down a final kill, and G2 close out what was a very, very hard-fought game and a close victory against Vitality on Coastline.
Ooh, it's one of those that took us up the way of the 12 rounds. It's what you wanted to see between the two of them. And I think we all knew coming into today, again, it was a scrap of these two teams that had struggled back in week one. And we said at the start, one of them had to come away the winner. It wasn't the prettiest win for either team. It came down to a bit of variation. The massive tactical timeout coming through with Shaz whispering a few sweet nothings into the ears of G2 apparently did the trick. That's enough to get them a win and get their season started with a few points coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it was both. You know, there was positive moments from both. There was mistakes from both. It was a tough win, whoever was going to get it. But G2 have shown the ability to dig it out, and that's the important thing, because I've got a feeling they're going to need to do that again in this stage.
They're going to have to do a hell of a lot more for sure. Hope we see G2 get back on their feet. And for Vitality, you started to see the signs of what makes them strong in this game. Just wasn't quite enough to get the rounds that they so sorely needed. Let's get over to our desk, currently full of prediction losers, and see what they think.
Who did you pick?
You got a what?
Who did you pick for that match?